Good afternoon and welcome to the City Club of Portland's Friday Forum, Oregon's premier public affairs forum. I'm Jim Zarin, president of City Club, and I welcome you all, those of you here at the Governor Hotel, and those of you listening on OPB or KBPS radio or watching on cable television. Thank you for joining us for this week's Friday Forum on this, the 5th of June, 2009. Today we welcome a panel of experts who will address the subject, Standing at the Head of Class, Promoting Great Teaching in Oregon. But first, some announcements. In consideration of those sitting close to you and those in our radio and television audiences, if you haven't already done so, I ask everybody in the room to please turn off your cell phones or any other devices that may make noise. As always, we offer our appreciation to our Friday Forum corporate sponsors for this quarter, without whose generous financial support these time-honored City Club Friday Forum luncheons would not be possible. Our initial corporate sponsor for this quarter is the law firm of Stoll Reeves LLP. We thank Stoll Reeves for its support. And if your company or firm would like to be a sponsor of our Friday Forums or of our nationally recognized citizen-driven research program, please contact City Club staff at the back of the room or call the club office. City Club's popular Citizen Salon Dinner and Discussion Series begins next Thursday on June 11th with the topic Twitter for Grown-ups. Learn about social networking, discuss why Twitter is becoming ubiquitous, and learn how you too can send or receive a tweet. That's what they told me it's called. I have no idea. Dinners of the Citizen Salon series will continue throughout the summer with topics ranging from local foods to urban planning. To learn about upcoming Citizen Salon dinners, go to the City Club website or watch the City Club Bulletin. The Club Citizen Read Book Group will meet on June 24th, and it will be reviewing the book Convictions by our new Oregon Attorney General John Kroger. The book is for sale in the back of the room. It's being held up for you all to view. Reservations for this event are requested because it's expected to be a significant turnout. So if you're interested, it's again June 24th. For more details, check the bulletin or the website or call the club office. Next week here at the Friday Forum on June 12th, Donna Beagle, the president of an organization called Communication Across Barriers, will discuss the effects of growing up poor and what can be done to help people overcome poverty as she did herself, going from being divorced with 2 kids, no high school diploma, and homeless at the age of 25, and ending up with her PhD. Hear her compelling story and what it has to teach us here at the Friday Forum next week. Now, if you're a City Club member and have not already made a reservation to attend this year's special annual meeting, please do. Be aware that unlike in prior years, this year's annual meeting of City Club membership will be an evening event at a location different than these Friday Forums. Indeed, the membership's annual meeting this year will be on Tuesday evening, June 23rd from 5:30 to 8 p.m. at the EcoTrust building in the Pearl District. The program for this year's annual meeting will consist of our regular annual meeting business of electing officers and members of the Board of Governors and recognizing those who have made special contributions to the club and to the community. But unlike in prior years, the program also will involve a group discussion and individual electronic voting by all meeting attendees regarding a series of important questions regarding City Club and its future that have arisen out of the strategic planning process that the club's Board of Governors has initiated during this past year. So all of you who are club members, do note that the annual meeting will be in the evening on Tuesday, June 23rd in the EcoTrust building. That special reservations are necessary. You can, again, check the website, call this club office, watch the bulletin, join in on what should be a meaningful and fun evening. And now to today's program. As concerned citizens, we all know how important an effective system of public schools is to individual success and to the well-being of our society. In recent decades, however, there has been increasing focus on not only the challenge of funding of our schools, but also their effectiveness in teaching our kids what they need to know and how to learn. Indeed, one emerging theme in the public conversation about both the funding and the effectiveness of our schools has been whether teacher compensation should somehow be tied to student performance, an idea discussed by Barack Obama when he was running for president. During last fall's election here in Oregon, voters turned down a Bill Sizemore-sponsored state initiative that would have made teacher compensation a function of classroom performance. And our teachers' unions and other education advocates typically are viewed as being outspoken in their resistance to this approach to improving effectiveness of our schools. Yet, one school district in the Portland metro area, the Sherwood School District, currently is testing a variation of this very approach. Working collaboratively, the teachers and administrators of the Sherwood School District have developed a plan for raising teaching quality and rewarding teacher excellence. And we at City Club are fortunate to have the opportunity to hear about this plan and its implementation today from a panel knowledgeable about the subject. Our first speaker today will be Sue Hildick, president of the Chalkboard Project. As many of you know, the Chalkboard Project is a nonprofit organization formed in 2004 by 5 Oregon-based foundations to promote the health of Oregon schools. A fourth-generation Oregonian, Sue Hildick has served as the legislative director to former U.S. Senator Mark Hatfield and as director of government relations at OHSU. She serves on the board of the National Civic League and recently was named a nonprofit CEO of the Year by the Portland Business Journal. Our second speaker is Sherwood Public School Superintendent Dan Jamison. Dan received his master's degree in education from Oregon State and has since worked as a language arts teacher, a high school athletic director and assistant principal, and a principal at the elementary, middle, and high school levels. He became superintendent of Sherwood Schools in 2005. And today's final speaker is Terrell Smith, who is president of the Sherwood Teachers Union. Terrell Smith has taught computer science in the Sherwood School District for 30 years and has been head track and field coach at Sherwood High School for 28 years. Terrell is the president of the Oregon Computer Science Teachers Association and recently received the Outstanding Technology Teacher of the Year Award from the software industry organization TechStart. Now, our panelists will speak in the order in which I have introduced them, and we have asked each to talk for no more than 10 minutes for a combined presentation of 30 minutes, so that will leave it at least 15 minutes for questions and answers at the end. So please help me give a warm City Club welcome to today's speakers, Sue Hildick, Dan Jamison, and Terrell Smith.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the warm welcome, and let me add our welcome. We are delighted to be at City Club today, and thank many of you for making this opportunity possible. We think we have a pretty exciting story to share with you, and one that we think holds a lot of promise for K-12 public education in this state that we love. I'm going to start with a quote from a poet. William Butler Yeats once wrote that more than the filling of a bucket, education is the lighting of a fire. And I stand here today as president of Chalkboard to tell you that we are a collection of pyromaniacs who are committed to the lighting of a fire in every school in Oregon. And I know I don't have to tell anyone in this room that we live in a time where each and every day our schools are having to extinguish too many fires. We all know the challenges. We know the budgetary situation that our legislators are facing in Salem. And we know that 40% of Oregon's public teachers are leaving the profession in their first 5 years, costing us over $45 million a year. Think about that, 40% by the end of their 5th year of teaching. We at Chalkboard believe that while we're in a time of great challenge, we are also in a time of great opportunity. And let me give you a couple of reasons why. First, as our state policymakers scramble for the dollars, innovative approaches and ideas are rising to the top, and we believe they're surfacing now more than ever. Secondly, the federal government is poised to spend an unprecedented amount of money in education over the next few years. They're talking about $5 billion in states and school districts that adopt innovative reforms, and that fund is part of over $100 billion they intend to spend in education over the next 2 years. Our new U.S. Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, said last week that this administration will reward those states that are willing to lead the country where we need to go and are willing to push the education reform agenda very, very hard. And the states that don't have the stomach or the political will, unfortunately, will lose out. Only projects that drive higher results for students, accelerate reforms, create efficiencies, foster continuous improvement, and can stand on their own after the federal dollars go away are going to win this money. Well, we're delighted to be here today with a project that we think can win some of that money, a success story that's transforming education as we know it for the better in 3 Oregon school districts right now. We offer this project as a model for how Oregon can be among those states that lead the way in helping our children achieve at high levels. Have I lost my sound? Okay. The CLASS project is a project that we are in the midst of expanding. We are currently in 3 school districts in Oregon, and we're searching for 3 more. We got any sound? Okay. We intend to seek federal and state support to take the project statewide. But first, let me tell you a bit about Chalkboard for those of you who may not know us. We've been working for the past few years to help elevate Oregon schools to among the best in the nation. And by that we mean a top 10 performing state based on student achievement. We are uniquely Oregon. We are uniquely independent. We are governed by 6 of this state's leading foundations with over 25 additional state and national funders. And as I travel around the country, I haven't yet found another chalkboard, for good or for bad. We believe in this, the best possible research about what works, citizen outreach and engagement, and the professional judgment of frontline educators. By listening in all 3 of those areas, we have developed a 15-point action plan that we believe will move Oregon schools to the next level, to the top 10 instead of middle of the 50 states in student achievement, which is where we hover today. We've been working on that plan for a few years now in lots of different ways, and we'll tell you about that shortly. But the centerpiece of our agenda is where the action happens, where the fires are lit, and that's the teacher in the classroom. Effective teaching in the classroom is the single most important in-school factor for raising student achievement. Children with effective teachers routinely perform more than 1 grade level higher in state tests, and the impacts of quality teaching can persist for many years. And we know that Oregonians are intensely interested in teacher effectiveness. Over 86% of us agree that attracting and retaining highly qualified teachers is the key to accelerated teaching and learning. So what must change? Schools need to be places of learning for teachers as well as for students. To help achieve this, we are expanding our CLASS project to support teacher leadership in Oregon. We want Oregon to be one of the best places to teach in the country. And that's the singular goal of the CLASS project. CLASS stands for Creative Leadership Achieves Student Success. It's funded by Chalkboard, but it's initiated by the school district and done in partnership with the teachers union, the school board, and the administration. We provide an average of $100 per child in the district, and we ask that it be spent on designing a new teacher career model that includes the following 4 components. I don't have a loud voice, but I'll ramp it up. Okay, so 4 components. The first one is multiple career paths for teachers. So envision, as a new young teacher, the prospect of going from novice to mentor to master teacher over the course of your career. Right now, you're pretty much offered teacher to administrator. But what if you had several levels of career path in front of you as a new teacher? Second, we want stronger job-embedded professional development, not drive-by, one-shot in-service days, but job-embedded, daily kinds of opportunity to improve your practice. Thirdly, instructional accountability, regular observations, and stronger and more frequent evaluations of teachers. And finally, we want professional compensation based on instructional practice, student achievement, and teacher leadership, so that individual contributions are as important as seniority. Let me say that again. Individual contributions are as important as seniority. That may be the groundbreaking part of this work, and certainly the most controversial part of this work, and you'll hear my friends talk about it too. But remember this, each of our districts has developed its own unique model, and the process has been led by the teachers. Teachers have proven to be eager to use data on students' academic performance to guide their instruction and to improve their practice. They need time to do so, and they need learning opportunities with their peers to make this a regular occurrence. They also want multiple measures of student achievement based on the progress students make year to year, rather than an arbitrary test score. They want the opportunity to earn additional compensation when they perform well and they meet school and district goals. And they are performing. Our early student achievement results are impressive. Let me brag a minute about Sherwood. Sherwood made math improvement a district-wide school improvement focus this year. So in the fall of 2008, 71% of their fifth graders were meeting or exceeding the state math standard. The district aimed to increase that percentage by at least 10% in their first year of the CLASS project. On the most recent spring 2009 assessments, 85% of fifth graders met or exceeded the state math standard, which means that 50% of the students who were not at grade level last fall are in 1 year. Teachers exceeded the goal of lifting up the achievement of these children by 14%. CLASS allowed time for teacher, school, and district collaboration and the use of student data to change classroom practice so that fires could be lit. Now, for those of you who work in public policy, you know that reform work on any level is difficult and takes a lot of time. We had one of our best days last week when our external evaluators for this program, our friends at Portland State School of Education, came and told us that this project had been transformational in its impact on teacher effectiveness in these districts. And when we asked why, they talked about the new evaluation process that's now in place, the new forms of professional development where teachers are in teams collaboratively learning together. These are practices that are not going to go away and that are changing the outcome. And then this music to my ears, this quote: "Teachers, administrators, and classified staff in these districts believe this project is innovative, effective, and in the best interests of students." That's pretty high praise, we thought, in a very short period of time. Now, many states are working on similar new career models for teachers, and we've been watching Minnesota. Minnesota has a project called Quality Compensation, or QComp. It was begun several years ago with very similar pilot projects than you'll hear about today, and now 42% of the state's children are covered under alternative career models. That was pretty rapid growth in about a 5-year period. Minnesota put state money behind this priority. They have an $85 million fund that is an incentive fund, so any district can apply for state dollars to plan a class-type project. What if Oregon could do something similar by 2011? If every district in this state wanted to build an alternative career model for their teachers, it would cost us approximately $55 million a year. That's less than 2% of what we spend today on K-12 public education in this state. Now, certainly it would require trade-offs, and our research has shown us where we would make them. For example, across the board, class size reductions, which are very popular in good economic times, showed no link to achievement beyond first grade. The chalkboard position is we should see class size reduction in kindergarten and first grade, but once you get beyond that, we don't see an impact from reducing class size. And they're expensive. For example, reducing class size by an average of 1 student in a single grade costs about $7 million statewide. Those savings could add up to something far greater if we invested them in a teacher effectiveness strategy. Which is why we're thrilled to be here today with Sherwood, and we wanted to thank our 2 dedicated firebugs, Dan and Terrell, and all of the Sherwood team for their leadership, innovation, and courage in developing the first such district reform model in Oregon. We also want to recognize our other 2 class districts, Tillamook and Forest Grove, who are doing equally wonderful work, and we wish we had time to share that with you today. And before I turn it over to Dan, I need to thank the real engine behind this project, which is Kate Dixon, for all of her hard work in getting us here. Dan?
Good afternoon. I'm honored to be introduced as a fire starter. That's the first for me, but I take that as a great compliment. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share today. Teacher quality is the greatest single factor impacting student achievement. It's more important than class size, curriculum alignment, early intervention, or a host of other factors. While we know these other factors are significant, they pale in comparison to the importance of having high-quality professionals working with our children in Oregon's public schools. Now, as a leader, I confess that I'm a bit competitive. One of my promises, it's a sacred promise to my board members, and one of my board members happens to be in the audience today, and I'm sure she'll hold me accountable. My promise is that I'm going to recruit, retain, and develop the most highly skilled professional workforce in public education in Oregon. And that's really, for me, what the Chalkboard CLASS project is all about. Today, in a brief time, I would like to share with you in three specific areas. First, I'd like to offer a bit of context about Sherwood and the importance of this work to our children in our community. Secondly, I'd like to share some of the key efforts that are unfolding. And thirdly, perhaps more importantly, I'd like us to have a look at initial results. We need to examine these results and accountability, and fundamentally, you and I need to ask the question, what difference does the CLASS project make for our children? Sherwood has been the fastest growing school district in Oregon for many years. Over a 10-year period from 1995 to 2005, when you and I reflect on high-growing districts like Beaverton, Redmond, Bend, and Hillsborough, those districts were growing at a rate of 30 to 40%. During that 10-year period, Sherwood increased in enrollment by more than 3 times that rate at 137%. Now, with tremendous growth come challenges as well as opportunities. One opportunity is the chance to hire new staff. When we have more students under Oregon's funding formula, we have the opportunity to have more resources, and with more resources, we hire more teachers. In Sherwood, we have about 250 licensed staff. And of that, about half have 7 years or less of total experience. This presents a remarkable opportunity for leaders and myself in our district. Quite frankly, if I were to look and to compare us demographically with the other almost 200 public school districts in the state of Oregon, I'm willing to bet that we probably have the youngest teaching staff in the state. Not only are my staff young, they are energetic, they're hungry to learn, and they're absolutely highly motivated to improve professional practice. They deserve our sustained commitment. I'm excited about the CLASS project because it addresses 4 key areas that beg our attention. First, it provides the foundation for meaningful professional development. We work together to design learning opportunities for all staff, for teachers, classroom aides, bus drivers, principals, professional training that specifically is tied to student achievement. Second, we have designed a performance evaluation system that has the buy-in and support of all professionals in our organization. Based upon the work of Charlotte Danielson, who has defined exemplary teaching practice, this model aligns our discussions, our reflections, and our shared commitment to achieve a high standard of performance and delivery. Third, the CLASS project provides choice. Our professionals have developed a career pathway model that gives teachers the opportunity to choose new roles and responsibilities, such as mentor coach, action research, piloting promising practices, and even national board certification. And finally, we are exploring and designing creative compensation. We believe we have a model that creates reward incentives for additional work and responsibilities tied to results for our kids. Now, it's important to state, each one of these developments has been designed from the ground up. This is not a top-down initiative. So what are the initial results? While we're very early in this grant, in year 1 of implementation, we see great promise. My board and I are extremely motivated to improve secondary math. We're not satisfied with performing slightly higher than the state average. Quite frankly, we believe that's a mediocre target. As we have in all academic core areas, we have identified Sherwood standards which are far higher and more rigorous than Oregon's benchmarks. Our first look at results this spring indicates that we have achieved high math gains across the board from grade 7 through 10. I think you heard Sue allude to 5th grade earlier. We're seeing results that are just as promising at the secondary level. Now, another area identified for improvement is reducing the freshman failure rate. We all know that our kids who fall behind in their first year of high school are at far greater risk of dropping out. Over 20% of our freshmen were failing one or more classes at this time a year ago. We set the bold goal of immediately reducing this rate by half, which our staff achieved by the end of the first trimester this year. Our dropout rate for the last 2 years has been 0.3% and right at 1%. And I want to tell you today, we believe that is absolutely unacceptable. We are working together relentlessly in a shared promise of achieving a true 0% dropout rate, because that is the only way that we can promise success for all of our kids. In both of these cases, thank you. It's important to note in both of these cases that our staff has worked collaboratively in learning teams to study together, establish goals, and change practice and measure progress. This is a successful formula. Professional development, time to meet, changed practice, shared targets, and collective ownership of results. These are the key principles that are emerging with this work. Now, I need to add that we are not satisfied with internal measures, and I believe Kate alluded to this as well, nor is Chalkboard. One of the key conditions of the work is the need for external accountability. All of our goals, our progress, and growth will be measured by Portland State University. Now, aside from the initial results that we see, I want to share some thoughts about unanticipated developments. 1 year ago in April, we were across the river at the Portland Convention Center at the Portland Educators Fair. Now, this is a large gathering where school districts from all over the Pacific Northwest come to recruit and interview promising candidates, most of them fresh out of college. In the midst of more than 200 districts, we saw a long line of candidates stretched across the floor of the convention center waiting to talk with us about the CLASS project. They were eagerly asking about professional development opportunities and whether they would be eligible to participate if they were hired in Sherwood. Here's another more concrete measure. You heard Sue allude to the tremendous loss of teaching professionals early in their careers at great financial cost. Last year, we retained 98% of our teaching staff, and this was before the current economic crisis. From a broader perspective, 6 months ago, I would have shared that we have seen a flattening of leadership in Sherwood. I see more professionals involved with greater investment in key leadership roles. Today, I would take the case that we have created a culture of leadership, an atmosphere of engagement and hope not based upon role or hierarchy, two characteristics we traditionally associate with public education, but evidenced more by interest, passion, and a relentless commitment to shared results. There's a final trait that has emerged. All of us from Sherwood, and Kate alluded to this too, pardon me, Sue did, not Kate, forgive me. Sue alluded to this too, and that is our belief that this work is fundamentally transformational. I do not use this term loosely. We have changed our dialogue, our decision-making, our culture, and indeed, the very nature of our relationships. This is fundamentally about choosing consciously to work differently. I'm reminded of the well-traveled quote, "If the horse is dead, perhaps it is time to dismount." We have long since dismounted, and we have discovered a new way of traveling together for the benefit of our children. And now I'd like to invite a fellow traveler to share his perspective of the journey, Mr. Terrell Smith. Terrell.
Good afternoon, City Club members and guests. The challenge of being number 3 is there may not be much left to say, but I'll do what I can. My name is Terrell Smith. I wear several hats in a Sherwood school district, but essentially I'm just a teacher. This is my 30th year, as Jim alluded to earlier, and all of them have been in the Sherwood schools. Even though you can't see her, I want to introduce my daughter to you. Her name is Jenica, and she is a second-year teacher in Sherwood as well, which means that we are the bookends of teacher longevity in Sherwood schools. I have experienced a teaching career as it has been, and Jenica has a chance to experience it as it could be. I bring these two perspectives to the development of the CLASS project, one through the eyes of a veteran, and I guess my daughter might have called one of those hats, quote unquote, old, and the other through the lens of a young teacher. As you heard from Sue and Dan, the Chalkboard Project is providing external funding to help design and implement the CLASS project. Early on, I saw that this would be a way to examine some innovations that would increase student achievement and teacher satisfaction. I felt that through this plan, we could accomplish both objectives. Now, my position as union president also helped us avoid the pitfalls of merit pay and pay for performance. Here we are after 2 years of planning. This was truly a collaborative effort. During the first year, 11 teachers, 3 classified members, and 3 administrators were involved in the design phase. Last year, 3 subcommittees finished the work of designing the evaluation process, the professional development component, and the compensation model. The framework for the development of this innovative Chalkboard project include these 4 components. We wanted to create expanded career opportunities, implement effective professional development, enhance existing performance evaluation process, and create financial incentives for professional practice. We felt that by addressing these 4 components, the result would be increased student achievement, increased teacher satisfaction, the establishment of career paths for teachers, and enhanced teacher and staff retention. Now, I say and staff retention because this plan includes classified staff as well as teaching staff. Since my daughter and other young teachers feel called to teach, we have a responsibility to provide them with the best training, evaluations, mentoring, and career path options possible. Studies show, as been indicated by my bosses actually, my boss said they stole the thunder on this research, but it is this: 3 of the 5 new teachers in the first 5 years leave the business. Now that's quite a brain drain, one we cannot afford if we are to provide the best possible education for our children. We have to create ways to improve teacher satisfaction and retention. The result will be increased student achievement. Our CLASS project allows young teachers to map out their career by choosing new professional and leadership roles. Historically, veterans like me had only 2 choices: teaching or administration. The CLASS project gives more career options. In Sherwood, teachers can now choose an extended career path that actually keeps them in the classroom if they choose. It is our hope that if teachers opt for administration, they will do so because they feel like that is the best path for them, not because it's the only path. Along with career path choices, this subcommittee created a model which financially rewards professional practices above and beyond regular classroom responsibilities. Our young teachers will be able to accelerate their salary growth in the first 12 years of their career under this plan. It is our belief that the evaluation process for teachers can actually be used to improve teaching practice. Interesting idea. Maybe you might think the union would say, whoa, we're scared of evaluations. No, we're not. We embrace good and effective and appropriate evaluations, as Sue indicated, maybe even more often. It's good data for me to get feedback on my practice. Based on that principle, teachers and administrators developed an evaluation tool that is formative and objective. One of the major committees of the CLASS project refined this tool and trained the teachers and administrators on its use. And the principals this year are currently using that tool and that process to evaluate teachers. Under our plan, teachers will be involved in the professional development through the use of collaborative learning teams. These teams will be teacher-led, providing yet another teacher-leader opportunity. We have used this model to enhance teaching and learning by creating cross-cultural art experiences, aligning math and literacy learning targets to the district and state goals, the articulation of K-12 curriculum, and increasing our student achievement in our core subjects. A great example is this. Our middle school humanities team identified a trend by analyzing the data, test data actually, and discovered that our 7th grade students had a dip in their writing achievement. Through the teachers' work in their collaborative learning teams, they were able to restructure their writing curriculum. All 20 6th and 7th grade language arts teachers are now delivering a better model of writing instruction aimed at increasing 7th grade writing assessment outcomes. Very cool. Had to break my speech here. I think we needed, that is very awesome. This type of focused collaboration would not have happened without the professional development provided through this Chalkboard project. The Chalkboard grant provided the Sherwood School District with the financial ability to meet our goals of creating expanded career opportunities, implementing effective professional development, enhancing the performance evaluation process, and creating financial incentives for professional practice. Now, my friend Charlie Walker, I think Charlie's sitting right here, former board chair of the foundation of Chalkboard, said when he was asked, how will Chalkboard know that they got their money's worth? He said, and I took a little liberty and asked his permission with the words, they will know when this is a successful plan, when teachers feel empowered to be in the classroom and students are excited to be there too. I want to add to that, when those two things are in place, increased achievement will occur. The CLASS project is transforming teaching and learning in Sherwood, resulting in staff satisfaction and increased student achievement. Thank you.
The first question of our panel, as always, will be from our Board of Governors host. Our Board of host today is Stephanie Mendoza-Gray. Stephanie works in the City of Portland's Office of Government Relations. She has over 20 years of executive level experience in nonprofits and government and serves on numerous boards and committees. She has been a member of the City Club since 2006, served on the Friday Forum Committee before becoming a member of the board last year. Stephanie?
Good afternoon. As I was reading information about Chalkboard Project, the CLASS project, I realized I hadn't gone to my two education experts. They live in my house, and they're my twin daughters that go to two different Portland public schools, and they're in high school. And we had a really great discussion as I presented this. I personally am a very strong believer in the student voice. It's the end users, it's my daughters, and their other students that they go to school with that are sitting in the classrooms. And for those of you that have children in school, if you sit down and ask them what they think makes a great teacher and what they think doesn't make a great teacher, you will get an expert opinion there. So once we had this conversation, the two questions I'm going to ask, and I would ask any one of the panelists to answer them, were really derived from the discussion that I had with my two daughters last night. The work that's being done here is very laudable and quite necessary, and increasing educator quality to raise student achievement is a necessary component of this. From an implementation standpoint, how does this effort link to helping an increasing number of students who come from racially and ethnically diverse communities and come from poverty and low-income households? And then the second question that I have that is really a question I'm asking on behalf of my daughters is how can students become part of the assessment of this program to determine if it's successful for them?
I'll go ahead and respond to the first question. We need to describe first what the demographics are in Sherwood. And quite frankly, we're about 91 to 92% Anglo and about 8% of minority background. We are probably slightly more affluent than most communities in Oregon, and so I need to offer that broader context. Now, with that being said, we need to understand that there are children at risk in every school district, regardless of what the quality or characteristics are of those districts. We have children who are at risk in Sherwood. And I think the response that I would give you is that the research is very compelling. It is relationship, relationship, relationship. The CLASS project helped us launch a program in our high school this last year. You heard me speak about the importance of reducing the freshman failure rate. We created a program that we called Reconnecting Youth. And this is working with our kids that we identified who are very much at risk, a core of about 25 kids coming to the high school from the middle school. We brought them in, sheltered them right away, and the key challenge of teachers was to build relationship with these kids, have a home base in a large comprehensive high school, and to make sure that we were tagging them throughout the school and setting them up for success. So that would be the most immediate example I could give you of that. And would you like to speak about student response to teacher quality?
Sure. It's good practice to see what your customers have to say about you. And so it's what we call in the education business, if you've been there a while, it's called monitor and adjust. You know, assess your customer base. You know, it's good practice. It informs how we will move forward in our instruction. So, you know, it is voluntary, certainly, but it is good practice.
We'll now turn to questions from the floor, from the audience. Asking questions at City Club Friday forums is a privilege of City Club membership. I see we have at least 2 tables here from the Chalkboard Project, and I would invite anybody from the Chalkboard Project to feel free to ask a question as well. When you do ask a question, please identify yourself and limit your question to 30 seconds or less. Try to have it have a question mark at the end. And since we have a panel today, if practicable, if you could address your question to one of the panelists so we can maximize the number of questions. I've told the panel that they are sure, all 3 of them are certainly free to comment on any question, but they shouldn't necessarily be compelled to if the first responder has covered the territory. So we'll adjourn at 1:15.
Hi, I'm Mike Rosen, a City Club member, and this question is for Sue. All the panelists talked about the importance of a mentorship program. It costs very little and it saves the state a lot of money. Yet in the current legislature, the new mentorship program in Oregon that's been very effective is going to be cut drastically. So part 1 is, can you have an effective CLASS project program statewide without an effective mentorship program? The second question is, it sounds like the CLASS project, if expanded, will cost money. And one possibility of funding it would be, I think, Sue, you alluded to this, you could increase class sizes and you could divert some of that savings to a program like this. And it sounds like the data shows that we can increase class sizes beyond kindergarten and 1st grade without impacting student learning. My question regarding that is there a critical mass size, though, to class sizes? In Portland Public Schools, the class sizes continue to increase every year, and I have high school children that are sitting on windowsills, and if relationship is important, how does a teacher have a relationship with more than 40 kids that's meaningful?
Great question. Thank you. Let me speak first about the statewide mentorship program, which Oregon put in place in the 2007 legislature, and we were thrilled about that. That means that When fully funded, every new teacher in Oregon in their first and second years teaching would have a mentor, a formally trained mentor helping them, and we believe that's critical to keeping teachers in the profession. We are fighting like crazy to hang on to that program in these economic times, and I will tell you that so far we have about $5 million appropriated for it. That's half of what we need, but we're doing better than most other programs. Legislators understand this, and we've had help from the media in telling the story, and they're trying very hard to get those numbers up. The bright spot is the federal funding that can come to Oregon can supplement what the state does. We don't think it should replace the state's commitment, but Arnie Duncan has specifically singled out mentoring as one of those reform strategies the federal government wants to support with stimulus dollars. So we're hoping between those two sources to keep that program growing. And we think it's critical statewide. So can we do class without it? Yes, because we're providing enough funding to these districts that they can do their mentoring program with class dollars, and many of them had it before. But to have it statewide would be a tremendous commitment to teacher effectiveness for Oregon teachers, and that's what we want to see. First of all, let me say in terms of funding overall, Chalkboard believes that there is not enough money in the system. Oregon is not spending at the top of the charts around K-12 public education, and it doesn't look like right now we will be anytime soon. And so as we look at class and figure out how to grow it, we've got to think pretty creatively, either to reallocate some existing funds that maybe could be better leveraged in a situation like class, or to look at whether there could be a dedicated recurring funding source for teacher effectiveness programs like class. That would be the Denver model. Denver passed a local levy that provides $25 million to the Denver School District for something called ProComp. And ProComp is a little bit more radical than the CLASS project, but it does a lot of the same things. It rewards teacher contribution and student achievement results. So, we're sort of surveying the landscape of about what the possibilities would be. I think you're absolutely right. There is a point when class size becomes too difficult to navigate, and you're absolutely right about that. And I don't think it's our starting preference to rearrange those chairs, but I think we are willing to look at every option because we believe this is the work that changes student achievement over time for this state.
I'd like to reply to that. Prior to Measure 5, Sherwood's class size was 19 to one teacher. And now it's considerably higher than that. I don't know if Dan thinks it's acceptable. Education is successful in Sherwood, but we are facing the challenge in this recent economic downturn that class size will increase as you hear about teachers being laid off. That is a challenge for the community economically and employment-wise, as well as a challenge for the students, and we are in charge of their education and their lives. So there is critical mass. Where is it? As indicated earlier, what are we going to do about the challenged economically challenged students? We need to create the relationships as Dan indicated. That takes a lower class size to be able to create those relationships and empower their learning.
Hello, my name is Cynthia Townsend. I'm a City Club member. And my question to you is, in light of the article this morning in the New York Times about the newly formed public charter school where salaries of teachers will be above twice what they are now, and in many places they'll be 3 times the national average of the country, what do you think of this strategy to attract better qualified, higher performing, and more motivated teachers?
I can speak to that from my perspective, and I would come at that differently. I want to guarantee a high-quality teacher in every single public classroom. And I believe that anything less than that is selling our kids short. There are incentives, and we need to acknowledge that there are incentives out there that are primarily economic in character and in delivery. But I want to share with you another factor of incentive. And that's what I hear from my young teachers in Sherwood. They are as motivated, if not more motivated, around professional development and opportunities to learn to hone their craft. That has traction. That has drive with our young professionals, and I believe that's as much a compelling factor to address that challenge of guaranteeing quality in all classrooms, and that's the work that we're engaged in.
Joyce Cresswell, City Club member. Mr. Smith, you mentioned that there was a new teacher evaluation tool that's being used at Sherwood. Can you describe that tool and how it differs from the kind of evaluation that used to happen within your district?
Yes, several years ago, the union, even prior to Chalkboard, the union and the administration saw the need for an improved tool that would be objective, more of a check-off, and I'll get right down to it. It is very descriptive, and it looks complicated. But that is the reason it looks complicated. It is a check-off for the administrators. The administrators find it quite a useful tool to walk into a classroom and be able to check off observed behaviors, rather than maybe just describe subjectively what they might be seeing. And we as the teaching, the association, we're comfortable. We actually helped design that tool based upon Danielson's model of teaching behavior. And so when, at the end of the day, at the end of the evaluation process, our teachers are confident that what the administrator lays on the table is accurate and helpful. So with that process, it is a collaborative process, and we're confident that it actually informs our practice, and we like the tool.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Sanford. I'm a City Club member since this last year. This question is for Dawn and Sue. I'm currently the Portland State Student Body President, and we are passionately interested in supporting the K-12 system, considering many of your students are going to be coming our way at one point in time or another. My question is simply for Dawn and Sue. How can the university level support your efforts? Quite frankly, what do you need from us?
That's a great question, too. Yeah, thank you for asking that. That's great, because we need all players involved with this question of teacher effectiveness, and certainly because preparation is happening at the higher ed level for our teachers, and then professional development. Certainly higher ed plays a very strong role there. I mean, we need to have those voices at the table. That's one thing. I think that we mentioned that Portland State University is evaluating this program, and as that goes deeper, we're just seeing the first results, but by fall we're going to have full scorecard of student data for at least two of our districts, the third one coming, and we'll be putting that out and talking about it. And I think that that is really going to be an important time to educate Oregonians about the leverage point that teacher effectiveness is. And we'd love to partner around that and to lift that up. And I think, you know, hearing you express your support for K-12 is just very refreshing. I think that's another key piece about, you know, the different voices that tell the story and care about what happens in the public school system are voices we really want to hear from.
I think I'd like to add to that, if I may, with a little bit of perspective-based experientially with what I've seen in the last 31 years. I would say hands down that our colleges and universities are far more responsive and far more current with preparation for teacher quality than I saw 15, 20, 30 years ago. We have in the audience today, and I don't know where she is, Molly Dixon, where are you? Would you please raise your hand? Molly's back. Please stand up, Molly. Now, if you get a chance, I want you to have a conversation with this great young woman later today. She's student taught for me in Sherwood this spring. She has a bachelor's degree. She's gone back to another university for a master's degree. She is as well prepared as any student teaching candidate I've seen in the last 20 years. Not only is she teaching our children effectively, in a language arts classroom at the middle school level, she is leading professional development for the teaching of writing. Now let's stop and consider that for a minute. This is a college employment candidate who is leading veteran teachers in teaching the art of writing to our students. That's the flip that we're talking about. I think that's a reflection of great university adjustment and adaptation and helping our candidates be far more prepared than they were 10, 15 years ago.
She also writes a great blog that if you happen to go to the Chalkboard website, check out Ready, Set, Teach, which is Molly's blog where she talks about what it's like to be getting her master's in teaching and spending her time student teaching. It's really great work.
And if there are any other districts in the audience, you can't have her, I'm hanging on to her.
Steve Novick, City Club member. I'd like to go back to a minute to the question that Mike raised about class size and relationships. I know there is research suggesting that class size alone is not the be-all, end-all, but I've heard high school students and high school dropouts say that what matters most to them is the feeling that teachers care about them. Now, it strikes me that it's possible to reconcile those two things if you would agree that there's professional development matters enough that teachers who've gotten enough help in terms of classroom management, et cetera, are able to, that with that background, are able to make 29 kids think that they care about them better than without that training they could have made 27 kids think they care about them. I mean, is there something to that hypothesis?
You want to hit that? Or?
Well, we're looking for that threshold of where can you create the relationships, and it comes down to money. You know, it's 29 versus 27 versus 24, you know, and maybe a master teacher can create those relationships between 29, and maybe if I'm challenged in my practice, I can only connect with 24. I don't know, but there is a range and there is a threshold. And what I can tell you is that this business is, you know, going to face some challenges because of the layoffs. But when I look at class size and I look out at my students, there is a critical mass, and I don't know exactly where it is. When it was mentioned that 40 students, that's way over critical mass, folks. Not having a desk or a comfortable place to learn, that's over critical mass. You have to be able to look in a student's eyes and connect. And if you can't, that's critical mass. We're over that. You know, and we in Oregon, we're facing a challenge now with the tax problem, with the economics that we're facing. And we're going to have to ask ourselves about the shared responsibility. How do we want to live? You know, I pay taxes because I have a great life here. I do not want to live in Afghanistan. Excuse me for, you know, that's maybe a strong statement, but we have the best life in the world, and I'm going to pay my taxes. Now, the shared responsibility, we're going to be facing some concerns here soon about how are we going to do that in Oregon with the downturn in economics. Hard questions. Can't tell you what the threshold is, but I know that I need to be able to look in all my students' eyes and connect for them to have the best possible education.
Kurt Wabering, member. Malcolm Gladwell had a recent article in the New Yorker, and one of the things that struck me was that when they looked at videotapes of teachers working with students, they found that some teachers sort of responded to the students negatively. They would just say, that's wrong, but whereas the other ones, who seemed to be better teachers, had a way of responding positively to the students, maybe transforming it, saying, well, that's not quite right, but have you thought of this? That's the idea of it. And it seemed to me that watching that this kind of technique of teaching was teachable using videotapes. And I'm wondering, first of all, if any of you have any might have read that article and had a response to that kind of use, that technique of relating to students and in the way that you provide feedback.
And I'd be happy to respond to that one. First of all, I have not read the article. We have read Gladwell extensively. Most recently, Outliers. Our entire K-12 math team read the book, and it is spreading like wildfire through the district. It's a beautiful book. In terms of the response by teachers to students and whether that's framed positively or negatively, we know through research, and we also know through common sense, we build on strength. We build on talent. We do that with students. We not only do that with students, we do it with staff. One of the system-wide supports that we have in our district is what we call positive behavioral supports. It's PBS. It's been under different acronyms. This originated from the University of Oregon. It is a powerful program that is in wide use throughout the state. I think what we see with PBS is that very approach, that we are affirming our students for positive growth and positive behaviors, and very specifically and systemically identifying those things that kids do well and building upon that. It is shown to have great results in many, many districts, initially at the elementary and middle school level, and now more recently at the high school level.
We've run out of time, so we need to stop there. Please join us next week here at the Friday Forum to hear the story of the journey out of poverty with Dr. Donna Beagle. Club members who haven't done so, please consider making your special reservation to the club's annual meeting on Tuesday evening, June 23rd. And as we close, please join me in expressing our appreciation of these people with passion about such an important subject. Sue Hildick, Dan Jamison, and Terrell Smith. We are adjourned.